let me give you the least cinematic AI failure imaginable. A pending claim gets processed correctly enough. The summary looks clean. The rule looks applicable. The reviewer approves it. The queue moves faster. The dashboard improves. Then, 6 months later, someone asks a question. Which agent prepared this action? What did it look at? What tool did it call? What policy constrained it? And why did the reviewer only see this version of the case? And the room gets quiet. That is the enterprise AI problem most companies are not preparing for. Not evil agents. Not science fiction. Not a glowing red robot declaring itself Chief Operating Officer. Just useful agents becoming part of production workflows before the enterprise has a way to operate them. My name is Vlad Stanovsky, and this is the Sovereign AI Enterprise. I look at how AI, agents, governance, infrastructure, and geopolitics are changing the way institutions operate. In this video, I want to look at a problem most enterprises will not notice until their AI agents are already useful. The shift from deploying agents to operating an agent estate. That is what this video is about. AI agents do not just need workflows. They need a control plane. And I don't mean control plane as in a fancy dashboard with dark mode and 6 charts nobody opens after the steering committee meeting. I mean a real operational layer that answers basic enterprise questions. What agents exist? Who owns them? What systems can they access? What tools can they call? Which policies apply? What did they do? What failed? What changed? What should be retired? Because one agent is a use case. 10 agents are a portfolio. Hundreds of agents are an estate. And estates do not run on vibes. They need mechanisms. Let's start with the claim. A pending claim lands in a queue. A member, a provider, a benefit rule, a procedure code, payment history, prior notes, maybe an authorization record. For years, that work has depended on a familiar pattern. A claims specialist opens one system for the claim, another for the policy, another for provider information, another for authorization history, and another for the standard operating procedure. The work is tedious. It is repetitive, but operationally important. These routine decisions shape administrative cost, provider friction, member experience, payment accuracy, and whether the plan can explain what happened later. Now, put a real operating AI agent into that workflow. It retrieves the record and reads the standard operating procedure. It checks the authorization history. It compares the claim against the benefit rule. It prepares the next step. It may even stage the action for re-adjudication and present the reviewer with a clean package of work. That is very useful. But the agent is no longer just helping someone read the work. It is doing the work. That is where the control plane conversation begins. Because the enterprise now has to answer operational questions. What did the agent see? What did it exclude? Which sources did it rely on? Which tool did it call? Which policy constrained it? What did the reviewer approve? What evidence remains? If those answers are scattered across logs, project trackers, Slack threads, local dashboards, and one person named Brian who knows how that agent works, you do not have an operating model. You have a scavenger hunt. So let's make this practical. Before enterprises scale AI agents, they need 5 controls. Not 5 principles or inspirational posters, 5 controls. The first control is inventory. You cannot govern what you cannot find. That sounds obvious until you ask a large organization how many agents it already has. Some were built by IT, some by a product team, some by a business unit. Some came embedded inside software platforms. Some arrived through vendors. Some started as pilots and became daily dependencies because no one wanted to go back to the old process. That is how Agent Sprawl begins, with usefulness. A claims team that deploys an agent to clear pending work. A service team adds one for member questions. Payment integrity uses another to review rule changes. Care management uses one to summarize long case histories. Finance adds agents for reconciliation. Procurement adds agents for supplier review. HR adds agents for employee service. Engineering adds agents for code review, documentation, incident triage, and test generation. No single deployment looks reckless. Each one has a business case, a sponsor, and each one saves time. But the estate starts growing before anyone has figured out that it is an estate. So the first job of the control plane is not glamorous. It is inventory. Every agent needs a record. Who owns it? What work does it support? Where does it run? What can access it? What can it change? And is it draft, test, staging, production, or retired? If you cannot answer those questions, the enterprise does not have an agent estate. It has agents wandering around the enterprise with access, tools, and permissions no one has fully mapped. The second control is proximity to systems of record. This is where agents stop being cute. A system of record is where the enterprise keeps the facts it acts on: claims, payments, policies, contracts, client records, supplier records, employee records, cases, transactions. An agent providing a policy answer is low risk. Reading records raises the stakes. Recommending action raises them again. Staging or executing transactions crosses the line. That is not automation, that is delegated authority. So every agent should be classified by how close it gets to the system of record. Here's a simple scale. Level 1, the agent answers from approved knowledge. Level 2, it reads operational data. Level 3, it recommends action. Level 4, it stages a workflow step. Level 5, it executes after approval. Level 6, it acts by exception, meaning it acts automatically unless something triggers review. Those levels will not have the same controls. They're not the same risk and do not need the same approval path, observability, or evidence package. The closer the agent gets to the system of record, the more the control plane has to know. The third control is separation of context, action, and authority. This is the part where deployments drift. Context is what the agent can see: records, policies, contracts, case histories, documents, messages, and exceptions. Action is what the agent can do: retrieve, compare, classify, route, update, trigger, stage, and escalate. Authority is what the enterprise permits the agent to decide or execute. These three, context, action, and authority are not the same thing, and they should not accidentally merge because the workflow got faster. An agent may need broad context to prepare useful work, tools to stage the next step, and enough confidence to make a recommendation. None of that means it should decide when approval is unnecessary. Context is not authority. Tool access is not permission. Confidence is not clearance. For every agent, force 3 answers onto one page. What can it see? What can it do? And what can it decide? If those answers blur together, your architecture is already drifting with permission creep. The fourth control is reviewable work. This is where many human-in-the-loop designs fall apart. A human approval step is not automatically governance. If the reviewer only sees a polished AI summary and a green approve button, that is not oversight. That is a rubber stamp with a better user experience. Before approval, the reviewer needs 4 views: the evidence, sources, rules, gaps, flags, and trace. The action, exactly what the agent wants to do. The impact, which record, workflow, or status will change. And the escape hatch, reject, revise, or escalate. Without that, human approval is not governance, it is theater. And that is a design standard. No approval button without evidence, change preview, and escalation. The fifth control is traceability before autonomy. This is the one companies will want to skip, because autonomy is where efficiency gets exciting. The queue moves faster. The backlog shrinks. The dashboard turns green. The business case gets a better haircut. But before the autonomy expands, the enterprise needs traces, not just logs that say something happened. Traces that show how the work moved. A trace should show the agent's path, sources used, tools called, policies checked, collaborator agents invoked, failures retried, outputs produced, human approvals, and downstream changes. Traditional monitoring can tell you whether a system is up. Agent observability has to tell you what path the agent took. Without that trace, the enterprise may know that a workflow finished, but not how the work actually moved. Agents are not ordinary automations with friendlier interfaces. Their behavior can shift when the model, prompt, retrieval source, tool schema, policy, or downstream workflow changes. That is why the control plane has to manage the agent's lifecycle: draft, test, staging, production, monitoring, evaluation, and retirement. Yes, retirement. If an agent no longer performs, has no clear owner, fails evaluation, or no longer deserves tool access, shut it down. Agent estates need pruning. Otherwise, you do not have AI transformation, you have agent overgrowth. So what does the control plane actually do? The control plane gives the enterprise one operational layer for the agent estate: inventory, access, policy enforcement, monitoring, evaluation, exceptions, lifecycle, and audit trails. It helps leaders answer one of the most basic questions in enterprise technology: what is running, and should it still be running? That sounds boring. And that's good, because boring is underrated. Boring is how planes land safely, payments reconcile, claims get processed, and auditors leave earlier than expected. The control plane is not there to slow adoption. It lets adoption continue without turning visibility into a luxury. Otherwise, every team invents its own controls. Some disciplined, some improvised, some held together by spreadsheets and folklore. That may work while the estate is small. It will fail when agents become part of daily operations across functions, regions, systems, and regulated workflows. Now, let's turn this into a simple enterprise playbook. Before the next agent goes live, ask for 5 artifacts. First, the inventory record. Who owns the agent? Where does it run? What model does it use? And what workflow does it support? Second, the system of record proximity rating. Is the agent answering for improved knowledge, reading operational records, recommending a next step, preparing work for approval, executing after approval, or acting automatically unless something triggers review? Third, the context, action, authority boundary. What can it see? What can it do? And what can it decide? Fourth, the human review package. What evidence does the reviewer see before approval, and what can the reviewer do if something looks wrong? Fifth, the trace. Can the enterprise reconstruct what happened after the workflow moves on? If a team cannot produce those 5 artifacts, the agent may still be useful, but it is not ready to become part of production work. That is the line. Do not start with the model, start with the operating model. So yes, build agents. Use them to clear queues, summarize cases, draft responses, prepare decisions, and remove the manual drag from work nobody was excited to do by hand. But before they scale, answer the control plane test. What is running? Who owns it? What can it touch? What can it change? Who approves it? And how can the work be reconstructed later? If the enterprise cannot see the agent estate, it cannot govern it. If it cannot govern it, it cannot safely expand autonomy. The problem may not start with one spectacular failure. It may start with useful agents doing useful work in places no single team can fully see. That is how a productivity win becomes a shadow operating model. An organization can launch agents without a control plane, but it cannot operate an agent estate without one. If this argument resonates, subscribe to the Sovereign AI Enterprise YouTube channel and Substack.
The data flows, a constant stream, shaping futures, chasing every dream. Complex patterns and sights unseen, a new era, sharp and keen. The world is changing, can you feel the pulse? A deeper vision beyond every impulse. Enterprise, geopolitics, AI.